Hello and welcome to today's deep dive. I am your host, and I'm joined, as always, by our resident expert.
Hey everyone, really glad to be here for this one.
Yeah, we have got a fascinating topic today. We're unpacking some excerpts from a source called 12, and our mission today is to dig into something almost all of us do every single week.
Right, something we usually don't even think twice about.
Exactly. But before we get to the actual source material, I want you to tap into a very specific, a very visceral memory.
Okay, set this in.
You are standing at a bus stop, or maybe you're in the break room waiting for the coffee machine to do its thing, and there is someone else there.
Oh, I know where this is going.
Right. It's someone you recognize, maybe a neighbor or a colleague from another department, but it is not someone you actually know. And then the silence hits.
Yes.
It's not a peaceful silence, is it? It's heavy. It almost feels physical.
It absolutely does.
Yeah.
And psychologists actually referred to that specific kind of tension as social pain.
Social pain. That sounds intense.
Well, your brain literally lights up in similar areas to where you register actual physical discomfort. You feel this intense pressure to perform,
So to prove you're normal.
Exactly. To prove you're not a threat. To prove you are a functioning member of the tribe.
That is exactly the feeling. It's that sudden cortisol spike. And in that moment of panic, when the silence is just becoming unbearable, almost every single one of us reaches for the exact same parachute.
We talk about the weather.
Yep.
Yep.
We say things like, hot enough for you, or looks like rain, or can you believe this wind?
It really is the universal default.
It is. And the stats from 12 back this up completely. 98% of people admit to engaging in small talk at least once a week.
Which makes sense.
But get this. Almost 2/3 of us specifically claim the weather is our go-to conversation starter.
2/3. That is a massive majority.
But here's the thing that honestly bothered me when I first looked at this source material. It feels a little trite.
Like a failure of imagination.
Yes. Exactly. I mean, we are the most cognitively advanced species on the planet. We are capable of poetry and quantum physics, and yet we default to this banal small talk.
It does seem disappointing on the surface, like we are just wasting our breath.
Right. I catch myself doing it, and I almost cringe. I think, wow, am I really this boring? Is this the absolute best I can do?
I think a lot of people feel that way.
But the mission of this deep dive today is to challenge that exact feeling of shame. Because 12 argues that saying, hey, it's a lovely day out, is actually a complex code.
It is a huge pivot in how we think about communication. It's not about the clouds at all. It is about survival.
That is wild to me.
We really have to stop looking at the content of the conversation. Because, yes, the content is boring, but we need to start looking at the function.
The function of the boredom.
Exactly. When you dig into the psychology of it, talking about the weather is this incredibly sophisticated social signal that we spent thousands of years refining.
Okay, before we get into the actual mechanics of that signal, I want to talk about why we even have this small talk shame in the first place.
That's a great place to start.
Because looking at the history of the research here, it seems like for a long time, the experts actually agreed with me. They thought small talk was just bad for us.
They really did. If you go back to the early 2000s, specifically around 2010, there was this prevailing view in psychology that deep, substantive conversation was the only thing that really mattered for your well-being.
Substantive meaning like your hopes and dreams.
Right. There was a famous study by Matthias Mail that got a lot of traction back then. It was actually quite controversial later on.
This was the study that basically said people who talk about real stuff are happier, right?
That's the one. They recorded people's conversations for days. And the conclusion they drew was that happiness correlated with deep conversations. And small talk actually had a net negative impact on mood.
So it was negatively correlated with happiness.
Exactly. The takeaway was basically cut the chit-chat, talk about your deepest fears and desires, and you will be fulfilled.
Which, okay, sounds great on a motivational poster. But in practice, that feels like a total recipe for disaster.
Oh, absolutely.
If I turn to the guy next to me on the elevator and just ask him what his greatest regret in life is, he is not going to feel fulfilled.
No, he is going to hit the emergency stop button.
Right. He's going to call security.
And that is exactly where the interpretation of that early data was flawed. The source material highlights that those researchers were falling into an efficiency trap.
What do you mean by an efficiency trap?
They were essentially comparing a quick snack to a 3-course meal. They looked at the nutritional value of saying, wow, it's raining, and said, well, this has 0 calories, therefore it is totally useless.
But you cannot have the 3-course meal without setting the table first.
That is the perfect analogy. The new wave of research, the new perspective we are looking at today, argues that small talk isn't a failed attempt at deep conversation.
It's a prerequisite.
Yes, it is the social lubricant. You cannot drive a car without oil. And you can't get to that deep, meaningful connection without first going through the ritual of the boring chat.
It's not an alternative to deep conversation. It's an alternative to silence.
Spot on.
Ah.
It lays the groundwork so you can have those more involved conversations later, if you even have the time.
So we have basically been judging a fish by its ability to climb a tree. We thought small talk was supposed to be about information exchange, but it's about something else entirely.
There is a term for this that is really useful here. It was actually coined by the anthropologist Bronislaw Malinowski way back in the 1920s.
Okay.
But it's coming back into fashion in this context. He called it phatic communion.
Phatic communion. Break that down for us. What does that mean?
It refers to communication that serves a social function rather than an informative one.
So it's not about passing on facts.
Exactly. When you ask someone, how are you, you generally don't want their medical report. You were just checking the channel. In tech terms, think of it like a ping.
Okay, so like when my computer pings a server, it sends a tiny packet of data, not to actually transfer files, but just to ask, are you there?
Right. Are we connected? Is the line open?
Wow. That is exactly what weather talk is. It's a human ping.
Yes. The content itself, saying it is raining, is completely irrelevant. You both already know it is raining.
You're both getting wet.
Exactly. The information value is 0. But the phatic value is incredibly high. You are establishing that the channel is open, that you recognize each other, and most importantly, that you're safe.
Let's pull on that thread of safety, because the excerpts from 12 get into the evolutionary psychology of this, and it suggests this need to ping isn't just about being polite.
Far from it.
It's basically about not getting killed.
It is very primal. If you think about our evolutionary history, a stranger is a threat. A silence between two people who do not know each other triggers a stranger danger response in the amygdala.
We are hardwired to be suspicious of the unknown.
We have to be to survive. Silence creates ambiguity. And ambiguity, to a primitive brain, equals potential danger.
So that intense awkwardness I feel at the bus stop, that is literally my caveman brain checking to see if the guy next to me has a weapon.
In a sense, yes. Small talk is the mechanism we use to eradicate that ambiguity. It breaks down the barrier.
It turns an uneasy stranger into a casual acquaintance.
Exactly. By saying something incredibly boring like, sure is a scorcher today, you are effectively waving a white flag.
You're saying, I am willing to follow social norms. I am completely predictable. I am not going to attack you.
You are broadcasting stability. The source points out that we are subconsciously looking for approval and validation here. We want to know where we stand in the social hierarchy of that specific moment.
And it goes beyond just the words, right? The source talks about the hidden conversation happening underneath.
Oh, absolutely. The nonverbal cues are doing the heavy lifting. Your facial expressions, your tone of voice. You are sending a signal of non-aggression and asking for acceptance. So
a simple chat about the sky is actually a really complex request for social validation. It is amazing because we tend to think of conversation as this high-level intellectual pursuit.
Right.
But really, at this base level, we are just grooming each other. It is the verbal equivalent of picking fleas off each other's back.
It really is primate bonding behavior. And this is exactly why that old view, the idea that small talk makes us unhappy, was so misguided.
Because if you take away the small talk, you remove the safety net.
Exactly. You leave people stranded in that high cortisol state of stranger danger.
Okay, so we've established that we absolutely need the small talk. It is the lubricant. It is the safety check. But that brings us to the core question of the day.
Why the weather?
Right. Of all the things we could use to ping the server, we have sports, traffic, celebrity gossip, food. Why is the weather the undisputed heavyweight champion of small talk?
The source material breaks this down beautifully. It argues that for this safety signal to work properly, the topic needs to meet 3 very strict criteria.
Okay, what are they?
It needs to be shared, it needs to be neutral, and it needs to allow for consensus. And the weather is virtually the only topic left that hits all 3 perfectly.
Let's walk through those for the listeners. First up is the shared universal experience.
This is all about immediacy. If you were standing at that bus stop we talked about, the wind blowing on your face is the exact same wind blowing on my face.
We are physically inhabiting the exact same reality.
Exactly. Which means the barrier to entry is zero. I do not need to know if you watch certain reality shows. I do not need to know if you follow basketball.
I just know you exist in the Earth's atmosphere.
Correct. It creates an instant in-group.
Yeah.
We are in this together.
Yeah.
If I try to talk to you about the local traffic, you might have walked to work.
Right.
If I talk about the game last night, you might hate sports. But you cannot opt out of the weather. It is happening to you whether you like it or not.
That makes total sense. And that leads into the second point, which I think is becoming even more critical lately, neutrality.
Yes.
12 contrasts weather with things like politics or even pop culture.
And this is where the modern context gets really fascinating. The list of safe topics is shrinking fast. Politics, obviously a minefield. And we aren't taking sides here, but I think everyone can agree politics is not casual small talk.
Definitely not. Religion is off limits too.
But even things like sports or diet or entertainment are becoming polarized. They're getting tied to people's personal identities.
That is so true. If I say, hey, did you see that new movie? And it turns out that movie is part of some massive internet debate I didn't even know about, suddenly I have stepped on a landmine.
Right.
Or if I say, I really love this burger place down the street and you happen to be a militant vegan.
Exactly. Those topics are actually prying. They require the other person to reveal something about their core values or their identity.
But the weather asks nothing of you.
The weather is the Switzerland of conversation. It is neutral ground. It is incredibly unlikely to spark any clashing disagreements.
I mean, I don't think I have ever seen a fistfight break out because someone said it was partly cloudy when it was actually mostly sunny.
I should certainly hope not. But that inherent safety allows for the third and final criteria, which is consensus.
Consensus, meaning we just want to agree with each other.
The whole goal of this phatic phase is to agree. We actively want to mirror each other.
Sun is good, rain is bad.
It sounds overly simple, but that predictability is the entire point. As the source puts it, a nice sunny day is universally nice. A gray, freezing, windy day is universally unpleasant.
So we use this assumed consensus to confirm our bond.
Yes. We use this knowledge to ensure we don't accidentally offend the other person, which makes it the safest possible bet.
So the script is essentially already written for us. I know that if I say, beautiful day out there, you are going to say, yes, it is.
And that exchange, that successful completion of the script, is exactly what releases the tension. It validates our shared reality.
It's like saying, I see the world this way. And you say, I also see the world this way. Okay, we are both saying we are safe.
Precisely. If we started debating tax policy, our brains would immediately jump into fight or flight mode. We wouldn't be bonding, we would be sparring.
So the weather is boring on purpose.
The boredom is the feature, not the bug.
That is the big aha moment for me. When we talk about the weather, we aren't failing to be interesting. We are succeeding at being safe.
Yes. You are clearing the runway so that if you want to take off into a deeper conversation later, you can. But you cannot land a plane on a runway full of debris.
Weather talk clears the debris.
It does.
Now, I want to take this somewhere a bit provocative as we wrap up, because while reading through the source material, I couldn't help but think about how our day-to-day lives are fundamentally changing.
How so?
Well, we've established that weather works because it is a physical, shared reality. But today, we are spending huge chunks of our lives in spaces where we do not share a physical reality.
You're talking about the digital shift, remote work, video calls, global teams.
Exactly. Think about your average video meeting. You log on and boom, you are in a grid of faces. There is no elevator ride up to the office. There is no standing by the coffee machine. And often, we aren't even in the same weather. I might be sitting in a thunderstorm, and you are sitting in bright sunshine 3 states away.
This is actually a really significant issue that organizational psychologists are starting to look at. In a digital environment, we often strip away the phatic layer entirely.
You just jump straight into.
You tend to go straight to business. Can everyone hear me? Okay, let's look at the quarterly numbers.
You skipped the lubricant. We are trying to drive the car with dry gears.
And that friction accumulates over time. There is a strong argument to be made that digital fatigue isn't just about staring at a screen all day.
It's about the missing safety check.
It is about the cognitive load of interacting with people without those safety signals. We are constantly in a state of mild stranger danger because we haven't done the primate grooming ritual.
That is fascinating. So because we can't easily say hot enough for you, since for the other person it might be freezing, we lose that easy entry point.
We do.
Do we have a replacement for it? Is asking, can you see my screen, the new weather talk?
It certainly tries to be. But notice how much more anxious those digital openings are. Can you hear me? Is my microphone on?
Those are technical checks. They aren't social checks.
Exactly. They do not offer the same shared sensory experience as saying, wow, look at that rain.
It feels much colder. It feels purely functional.
There is a sociological theory that we are currently suffering from a deficit of weak ties.
Weak ties.
Sociologists talk about strong ties, which are your family and close friends, and weak ties, which are the barista, the neighbor, the colleague you see in the hall.
And weather talk is the currency of those weak ties.
Yes.
Yeah.
And in a digital world, we are letting those weak ties atrophy.
Because we do not have the neutral ground of the physical atmosphere to anchor us anymore.
Exactly. When you remove the physical environment, you lose the only thing you were absolutely guaranteed to have in common with a stranger.
So you have to work a lot harder to find safety.
You have to risk more to find a connection.
Which honestly might explain why online discourse feels so much more hostile sometimes. We don't have that buffer. We don't have the demilitarized zone of the weather to ease us in.
It is certainly a contributing factor. We are trying to have deep or at least highly functional interactions without any of the biological warm-up.
So bringing it all back home to you, the listener, the next time you are in an elevator and you feel that crushing weight of silence and you hear yourself say, can you believe this humidity?
You shouldn't feel like a boring idiot.
Not at all. You should view yourself as a highly skilled social technician.
I love that. You are deploying a high-level psychological tool to lower cortisol, establish a shared reality, and signal safety to a fellow primate.
You are doing the work of civilization.
You really are.
And if you are jumping on a video call,
Maybe take an extra 30 seconds. Even if you aren't in the same weather, ask about theirs. Try to artificially recreate that phatic layer.
just say, is it sunny where you are?
Exactly. It seems trivial, but your brain and their brain really needs that handshake before it can get to work.
It is not about the clouds, it's about the connection.
It always has been.
What a great way to frame it. A true defense of the mundane. Thanks so much for helping us unpack this today. I am going to go outside and check the sky, just in case I run into anyone on the way home.
Good luck out there.
And thank you all for listening to this deep dive. Something for you to chew on next time you check your weather app. Stay safe, and we will catch you on the next one.